Esteemed advisors, chaperones, and delegates, welcome to PACMUN 2020. My name is Cody Felling, and it has been an honor to serve as your Director General for this year's conference. Although this iteration of the conference is different than all others before it, I'm proud to say that we've been able to maintain so much of what makes PACMUN PACMUN. Much of this is due to the hard work put in by PACMUN's Secretariat, which I'd like to introduce here. First, our Undersecretaries General of Delegate Affairs, Sonia Gupta and Natalie Sarabozine, who have spent the last 9 months poring over spreadsheets and responding to your emails. Then our Undersecretary General of Technology, Samarjit Kushik, and Undersecretary General of Media, Isabel Nursinov. And finally, our Undersecretary General of Finance, Gloria Wang, and Assistant Director General, Isabella Wang. I'd also like to thank our media team and technology team for their behind-the-scenes work to make this conference possible. I'm proud to announce that even though PACMUN is being held virtually this year, we are still hosting close to 500 delegates and 70 staff, plus a multitude of Secretariat members, advisors, chaperones, speakers, and panelists. Now, please welcome our glorious Chief of Staff, Luke Juflis, to introduce the internal Secretariat team and our committees.
Thank you, Cody. As many of you know, my name is Luke Juflis, and I've had the absolute privilege of being your Chief of Staff for PACMUN 2020. Our team of nearly 70 staff and Secretariat members have been working ceaselessly since February to make this conference experience as exceptional as possible. Everything from the topic selection to the background guides to the platform have all been scrutinized tirelessly to ensure that each one of you 467 delegates can have a truly phenomenal experience. However, I cannot claim credit for the success of this conference. It was the tireless work of my Undersecretary Generals of committees and each individual staff member that will make this weekend unforgettable, even in an online format. Firstly, our USG of Principal Bodies, Maya Nair. As USG, she had an uncanny ability to remember things that I would forget, but more importantly, led her 6 committees to producing genuinely interesting and unique principal bodies. The Committee for Sustainable Development, the Special Political and Decolonization Committee, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, the World Health Organization, the United Nations Human Rights Council, and the United Nations Security Council. Next, our USG of Economic and Social Bodies, Kellen Horde. I have never seen a USG with so many brilliant and innovative ideas, so it is no surprise that he has also led 6 exceptionally inventive and relevant committees to success that delegates will be certain to enjoy. The African Union, the Commission on Science and Technology for Development, the European Union, the League of Arab States, the United Nations Economic and Social Council for Asia and the Pacific, and the United Nations Children's Fund. And Ritika Prakash, our fearless crisis specialist who is able to fill in for my complete lack of expertise in crisis committees. With her tireless crisis training and innumerable calls to talk about crisis arcs, she created 5 exciting and enrapturing specialized committees. The Future Crisis Committee, the Corporate Cabinet, the Historical Joint Crisis Committee, the Kemiat Gosudadvinai Bezopaznosti, or the KGB, and the US Senate. I'd like to take a moment now to thank each and every one of these staff members for their incredible commitment to this conference. Each one of them persisted despite the online difficulties and frustrations, and were able to create something truly unique. It is these staff members who continue to make PACMUN an unparalleled experience, and for that, I and the MUN Northwest community cannot be thankful enough. Thank you, staff members. Now, I would like to hand it off to our stupendous Assistant Director General, Isabella Wang. Thank you.
Hello, delegates. When we first switched PACMUN to a virtual platform, the entire Secretariat was working hard to make the transition as seamless as possible. And after 9 months of hard work, I'm beyond excited to announce our first ever Virtual College and Opportunities Showcase. So during day 1, delegates will be able to reference a wide variety of colleges and opportunities available to them on the Showcase tab in our website. You'll be able to click through each program to see information such as FAQs, video links, application links, contact information, and much more. In addition to our virtual showcase, we'll also be hosting a live college presentation from 12 to 1 on day 1. Delegates who have already registered have received a link to their Zoom calls for this afternoon. At the end of day 1, we'll also be hosting an optional delegate social where delegates can play games, watch a movie, or beat their friends in a game of Kahoot. The link to the delegate social will be sent over Slack, and we all look forward to seeing you there. And lastly, on day 2, we'll be holding our alumni panel. Delegates who have registered have already received a link, and our panelists could not be any more excited to see you all there. You can find more information about our panelists in the conference tab of our website.
As USG of Finance for PACMUN 2020, I would like to thank our sponsors, the Kirkland Rotary Club and the Bainbridge Community Foundation. Kirkland Rotary members believe that we have a shared responsibility to take on our world's most persistent issues. Their mission is to provide service to others, promote integrity, and advance world understanding, goodwill, and peace through their fellowship of business professionals and community members. Bainbridge Community Foundation is a grant-making public charity that improves quality of life within a specific area by harnessing the financial resources of individuals, families, and businesses to support effective community nonprofits. Thank you to the Bainbridge Community Foundation and Kirkland Rotary International Committee for providing PACMUN with the means to make our conference as accessible to as many people as possible. I would also like to remind everyone that in PACMUN tradition, we will be having candygrams this year. Send a meme or message to your friends in a different committee, and the Secretariat will read your candygram out loud. To request a candygram, fill out the form in your Know Before You Go email or check our Instagram for the link. Note that candygrams will be screened for appropriateness and harassment and do not contain actual candy. With that, PACMUN's Director General, Cody Falinge, will now review the conference rules and policies.
Delegates are expected not to share links to committee Zoom or Slack channels, and generally behave as they would in an in-person event. Western business attire is expected during all committee sessions, and the same goes for having your camera on. These policies can be found under the conference section of our website, and delegates are encouraged to reach out to Secretariat members on Slack with any questions. Head delegates and advisors are also reminded of their respective meetings, details of which can be found on the PACMUN website and in Slack. The first advisor meeting is scheduled for noon today, and the first head delegate meeting is scheduled for 6:40 p.m. this evening. With that being said, please welcome our Secretary General, Spring Chen JP.
Thank you, Cody. My name is Spring Chen JP, and it is my esteemed honor and privilege to serve as your Secretary General for Pacific Model United Nations 2020. The Secretariat started planning PACMUN in January, when the COVID-19 pandemic was hardly newsworthy, and it seems 2020 held nothing but promise. Yet in the span of a few months, our world changed in a way that no one could have predicted. This may not be how any of us wanted to spend a year of our lives, yet our Secretariat and staff team rose to the challenge. Amidst discussions of postponing the conference versus outright cancellation versus holding the conference in a parking garage, we settled on moving to a virtual format, despite not knowing what we had to do to prepare, which virtual format, or if any delegates would even show up. I need to extend a sincere thank you to my Secretariat, who helped plan every step of this landmark change, without whom I would not be standing here right now. I need to thank our staff, who, for nearly a month, operated knowing only that PACMUN will be virtual. I have so many thank yous to give, but the most important one goes out to you. Every single delegate who made a commitment to learn about global affairs, improve their public speaking skills, and build connections across borders, no matter the state of the world. Every year we say PACMUN could never exist without its delegates, and every year it holds true. But this year more than ever, you had the choice to stay home, turn on Netflix, enjoy your weekend. But you chose to spend it in a suit at 9 a.m. in the morning talking about international relations. That begs the question, why? All our talking about nuclear disarmament or human rights won't solve the very real inequities in our world. 48 hours later, we will still be in the same place as before, navigating online learning, chaotic current events, and profound social isolation. If Model UN won't change anything, why do it? The answer is simple, because we have to. Because maybe it won't work, but we have to try. Because our generation will leave its mark on the world one day, like it or not, so let's ensure it's for the better. Maybe the world is big and scary and full of more problems than any one of us could ever hope to solve alone. But for that moment, that doesn't matter. Because for a weekend, we are senators and diplomats and world leaders. There are resolutions to draft and alliances to make and crises to resolve. Let's get to work.
I would now like to introduce our wonderful keynote speaker for PACMUN 2020, Rosalind Wiseman. She is the founder of Cultures of Dignity, an organization that changes the way people perceive physical and emotional well-being. She works with young people, educators, policymakers, business and political leaders, and many more to foster civil dialogue and inspire communities to build strength, courage, and purpose. I could not be any more excited to introduce her here today. Ms. Wiseman has also graciously offered to do a live Q&A over Zoom with delegates, so we kindly ask that you transition back to Zoom when prompted after her speech. And with that, it is my absolute honor to hand it over to our lovely keynote speaker, Ms. Wiseman.
Hi, I'm Rosalind Wiseman, and I have the honor and privilege of being your keynote speaker. And we're going to follow up the keynote with a question and answer session that I'm really looking forward to. But first, why? Why do I get to be your keynote speaker? Well, for a long time, I have been working with young people, and I recognize them as the subject matter experts of their lives. I have written a lot of books, curriculum, and I co-founded an organization called Cultures of Dignity that really works to create a platform for young people in schools and in all of the places that young people really can make meaningful contribution, which in fact is actually everywhere. So I'm just going to show you a little bit about who I am in pictures. So the book in the middle is the Distance Learning Playbook for Parents, and that is the most recent book that I've published. It came out about 4 weeks ago, and it really gives parents, the most important things that they need to know, not to be your teacher right now while distance learning, but to be able to help you create or maintain a love of learning. The picture where I'm wearing the black and white striped dress is where I'm keynoting at the State Department for all of the heads of associations of international schools around the world. Below that, I'm talking to a group of fifth grade people right before I give them a presentation. Over in the top corner is a group of fifth grade boys that I am working with, and I've worked in their charter school system. They are really getting into the difference between different kinds of teasing. And in fact, if you can see there in that picture, they're trying to figure out all the different ways that yo mama jokes can come across. Like they can be playful, they can be annoying, or they can be really hurtful. And how do you tell the difference? So if you remember from fifth grade and sixth grade, these things actually are really, they matter. Like they matter to you because it's really annoying for somebody to just put everything under the category of teasing, and then they get away with really obnoxious behavior. Down below that are my boys. A couple of years ago, they're now 17 and 19 years old. And so not only am I an educator, but I am also a parent. So let's go to what I do and also what I'd like to do to frame our conversation today in the keynote. So principles guide behavior, they guide our actions. And I have a lot of principles at Cultures of Dignity, but these are the ones that I thought were most important today for this keynote. So the first one is everyone deserves to be treated with dignity. Dignity means to be worthy. You just get it. And it's really important that we recognize people's dignity because that actually enables us to have incredibly difficult conversations as long as we don't let go of their inherent worth, that we keep that in mind at all times. Activating curiosity, especially when we're uncomfortable, is the key to learning. Whether we like it or not, that is true. No one knows everything. Together we know a lot. Also true. For example, I am an expert on adolescence. I know a lot about it. I've been working with people your age for a very long time. That does not make me an expert on you. You are an expert on you, on your communities, on your schools. So together we can work to make and do incredible work. And that's the case with everyone. Be easy on people, but hard on ideas. We live in a culture that is really hard on people, like in cancel culture. We can't make a mistake without people, thinking the worst of us. But we are pretty easy on ideas. We don't often really analyze the ideas. We're much harder on people than ideas. We want to switch that principle and be easy on people, hard on ideas. Conflict is inevitable. Collaboration is essential to resolution because conflict is inevitable no matter how smart people are, no matter how great your school is. Always, no matter where you go, conflict is inevitable when human beings are together. Listening is being prepared to be changed by what you hear. That does not mean you have to agree. It means that when you go into a conversation that you are carrying this principle, this thing that will guide your behavior, and that in this case, you are going into a conversation thinking, I'm going to be prepared to possibly be changed by what I hear. Asking for help is a skill, not a weakness. That is a guiding principle that we will all be in situations that are overwhelming, and that it is really incumbent upon us to be able to identify the characteristics that we need in a person that we can go to for help. So instead of focusing on actual people first, it is what are the characteristics that I need in an adult. It's actually one of the biggest mistakes we've made in education. As we've said to people like you, to young people, if you have a problem, go tell an adult. Well, which adult? We don't actually connect it to a social emotional skill and a capacity. We just say, go talk to an adult. It's actually something to think about who you need and why before you think about it. Because by the way, some adults are not so great at this. And so we need to be able to create a skill-based capacity driven by this principle so young people can think, if I'm overwhelmed or if I'm having a problem or my friend's having a problem and I don't know what to do, I know that it is a skill to be able to figure out who it is that I need to go to and then go to that person. So all of these are principles that guide behavior. And here's really probably the most important thing for me that I want to share with you. These principles enable you to have uncomfortable, controversial conversations with people. We are getting to a point where we are dominating, where some voices are dominating conversation so much about issues that are important, and other people are so afraid to step into those conversations because of how they are dominated, that we are losing our ability to talk to each other. These principles guide your behavior, guide your actions, can guide your decision making and thinking so that you can step into having uncomfortable conversations and be the leader that you may want to be, or at the very least show up in the way that you want to be, in a way that you can be proud of yourself. Now, this goes to my next thing, my next foundational principle, my concept for you all, which is happiness. When you ask most parents what they want for their kids, they'll say, I want my kid to be happy. But happy doesn't mean no conflict or no frustration or no failure. So I'm going to define happiness in this way: meaning beyond oneself, hope of success, social connection, satisfying work, and a place to process and find peace. So I'm going to ask you right now, what brings you happiness? What are the things specifically that make you happy? Because regardless of where you come from, your ethnicity, your religion, your age, anything, these actually are things. These are the component parts that across the board make people happy, even when things are really looking scary or uncomfortable or nerve-wracking or anxiety-producing like they do right now. So if you can, and it's inevitable that we're going to have bad feelings right now. I think so. But emotions, while they are real, they are absolutely real, can change. And knowing what the definition of happiness is in this way can help us move some of those negative feelings that we might be having, some of those feelings of depression or anxiety or overwhelmingness or confusion, and be able to move through them because we've got these anchors of what makes us happy and reminds us of our purpose in life. So with that, those are my overarching concepts for you. I want to go to, how do you have hard conversations? Because I think that, this conference is about being able to negotiate things and debate things and all of that. But also I think that as young people, you really deserve to have the best skills possible to be able to negotiate and navigate the difficult things we've got in front of us. Again, regardless of how controversial the concepts are or how scared people are about them. So here's my, in this keynote, I'm going to give you some of just the framing, is here are the signs that I think that things are going off the rails in a conversation. So you have your principles and they're really important to guide you. And then concretely, when you're having the conversation, what you need to have this thing of oh, this is not going well, right? You need to be able to trust the feelings you've got in your gut and put them to words. So these are my words on it. The conversation is going in circles. People are repeating themselves. Someone feels judged or mocked. People are only listening to catch mistakes. And someone feels that they have won the argument, which I really want to hone in on that last one. When somebody feels that they've won the argument, our culture usually applauds that, or they get more attention. It looks like they know what they're doing, or it looks like they have power. What they have done is a momentary boost to their ego, but they have not in any way repaired a relationship or have moved the conversation forward. They've just dominated. And so I really want us to check ourselves about if we get to the place of, has somebody won the argument, including yourself, to really check it and say, actually, that's not the goal here. The goal is actually to have people get to a place where we understand each other better so that we can solve or begin to address effectively the significant challenges and problems that we are facing today. So what are the signs that things are on the right track? Both sides can feel like you're getting to know the other person better, sharing their feelings as well as their beliefs, asking curious questions and listening to each other's answers, listening, not necessarily agreeing, listening, learn something from each other, disagree, even intensely, but still feel that the other person acknowledges their dignity. So just to highlight the curious question thing, I mean, you may know this, but just to highlight it, a curious question acknowledges someone's dignity because it shows that you are interested in their point of view or knowing more about their situation. A non-curious question uses a question as an excuse to demean, humiliate, or mock someone. And if you are in a position of leadership and you are facilitating a conversation and someone is asking a non-curious question, I would call them on it. I would call them on it by treating them with dignity, but saying the way in which you're asking that question comes across like you're trying to put the person down instead of trying to actually get more information. So call it, be specific, and treat the person with dignity at the same time, which goes to my last concrete thing, which is, we need words. We need actual words to be able to talk to people. And we need to give everybody a little bit of grace, always, but especially right now. So when I'm in tough conversations where someone has said to me something that I'm like, are you kidding me? Right? Like where you get that thing in your head of like, I cannot believe that person just said that. Here's what I say. These are my default responses. I say, help me understand. And then I repeat what the person said. And I really, really try my best to have a genuine, authentic tone of voice, not a sarcastic or snarky tone of voice, because if I have a bad tone of voice like that, then it cancels out the content of my question. And then if they're continuing to say that, something that's really confusing me that I really disagree with, then I say, this is clearly very important to you, and I'd really like to understand why. Will you explain it to me? And so you are recognizing the dignity of the person and possibly the story or the experiences that they had in the past that have brought them to this time to have this opinion that they have that you might think is really, really wrong. So you're trying to figure out what the story is. You don't need to know all the details. You just need to recognize somebody's dignity. And in doing so, it gets much, much harder for that person to come back at you with a lack of, with not treating you with respect or being disrespectful to your argument or to be demeaning, to mock, and to not treat you with dignity. One of the things in the keynote that we can talk about is the difference between dignity and respect, which is incredibly important. So in closing, here's what we've got. We've got a keynote where I'm giving you some ideas that you can really disagree with, or you can say, okay, that didn't help me, I need more. So I really am looking forward and challenge you and encourage you, more to the point, encourage you to ask me questions about how this looks in real life. Even with conversations that we sometimes like to really stay away from. So you can ask me anything. I really thought in my life, in my positions of leadership that I've taken, that, it's really important to live by one's principles. You're going to make mistakes about that. But if you just keep focused on that, it gets you back on track. It's not obviously easy to be able to put yourself forward like this. But if you do, you need the best resources and the best support system around you. You need to be you are going to be on an ongoing journey of self-reflecting and asking yourself how you can do better. I don't mean like outward success. I mean like how you internally are self-reflecting so that you show up and always are doing better for yourself and the way that you want to live your life. And the experiences and success that you have will come from that. So if you want to get more information from me or for the organization, here's how you do it. Cultures of Dignity, we have a newsletter. We have a teen advisory board that helps us with everything that we do. I would particularly point you all to the Navigating Politics with Dignity campaign that we have been doing that is co-directed by two seniors in high school that I basically support and assist. We have a blog also where we have lots of contributions from young people. And if you have any questions or things in advance of the question and answer session, then absolutely ask me at curious@culturesofdignity.com. Thank you so much for your attention and for hanging out with me during this recorded keynote. And I really look forward to seeing you in person during the Q&A. Bye.